What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are here to begin Cleveland Browns week. All right, we have the first injury report of the week for the Lions and for the Browns. And my goodness, there are a lot of names on this week injury reports. I mean, the Browns is huge. It's gigantic.
I don't know, man, but the good news is that it doesn't look all that bad, Brian. It's that spot right there that's upsetting you, right?
And the Lions isn't super small either, but the Browns is huge, man. So we got a lot of names to run through. So let's waste no time. Let's get it started.
The city's been down, and it found a way to get up. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, all right? And we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take two more shots to knock us down. We're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Welcome everybody to another video. Glad you guys are here. How's everybody doing today? We're going to be doing this injury report video for today. We know we do this Wednesday through Friday. And tonight, I think we may do our stream tonight for the All 22. I've been watching it the last few days, trying to get as many notes as I could from this past game because there was a lot of things that I thought were good, especially on the defensive side. Offensively, it was a little bit more about focusing on the offensive line, which is usually, oh, that's kind of boring. But I also think it's kind of fun because you get to see the Taylor Decker impact, the good, the bad. You really get to focus on the offensive lineman, which easily can be overlooked in other weeks, especially passing weeks. So that's what's exciting about this. So we're probably going to do that tonight. But right now we're here with the injury report. Now, I did miss the Michigan basketball game yesterday. They lost. I checked the score and I was sad to see that they lost by 2. I guess they missed some free throws late. I missed it. I thought the game was today. I don't know why that happened. I thought the game was today. I was like, well, we're going to stream that tonight. We'll figure out the All 22. Maybe that'll be tomorrow. But I missed it. So, yeah, I apologize. Now, the second game wasn't one I missed. Like, I kind of knew that game was going on. We just didn't stream for it. But this last one against Seton Hall, I completely missed. They play on Saturday, but I think they play at the same time Michigan plays. Like, they play at 12:30. Michigan football plays at noon. So we're going to be doing the Michigan game. Anyway, well, the football game, not just the football game. We're going to be doing that one against Maryland because I know that's some college football playoff implications. So tune in for that live stream. We'll kind of keep an eye on the Michigan basketball score as we go along. But anyways, let's dive into this. We got to hear from Dan Campbell, from Jared Goff, from Kevin Stefanski. I think some other players also talked for the Cleveland Browns, but I didn't get a ton of notes from the Browns side really on, like, I don't know, schematics or anything like that. It was really more about injuries. There were a lot of short answers, and they're coming off a huge loss to the New England Patriots. They got beat 45-7. So, yeah, I mean, I would say the morale's probably a little low there. They believe that this win streak that they have to have for the AFC North, because right now they're technically in last in the AFC North, will start against us. Well, it should start against us. So, and the Lions, they're looking for their first win. They just played a real tough game. And we know this is such a big game for us because we played a lot of tight games this season. But it's about how do we respond to a tight loss, in this case, a tight tie. I mean, it's super tight. It's about as tight as you can get it if you tie. How do we respond to that? Because in the past, we've responded by getting blown out. How do we respond this time around coming off of the bye week? And even Kevin Stefanski acknowledged the big schematic changes that we had. 6 offensive linemen. He said we did it 28 times. 6 offensive. Okay, I didn't count that, but dang, that's a lot, and it does make sense. 6 offensive linemen 28 times. That's crazy. I've seen Anthony Lewin do it in the past. We talked about it this offseason, but 28, that's insane. But anyways, we'll get to that. Let's dive into this injury report first. I'm going to start off with the Lions, and then because the Browns one is just really long, so we'll probably kind of fly through that one. Some big names that we need to track throughout this week to see who comes back, okay? Now, I first want to start off on the injury reserve side. Just a quick update over there. The 3 players, as you can see on the left and next to injury reserved, are the guys that are working back on their 21-day, period to get back. They're kind of in that limbo stage of they're practicing, but they're still technically on IR. They have to be activated off of IR to the active roster to play. Melifonwu's on day 8. All 3 of these guys are on day 8. Corey Ballentine, Ife Melifonwu, and Tim Boyle. All right, so all these guys are in that process of working back to being activated once again. And again, we know that 21-day period, if you're not activated within that 21-day period, you are out for the season. So it's a pretty important 13 days for those guys. I want to start there because one of those names are going to be pretty important as we go through this list. So now let's get into it for the Lions. Let's start off with some good, though. I want to start off at the bottom. There are 2 guys that are no longer on this list. That's A.J. Parker and Taylor Decker. That's great. Awesome. But now let's scoot back up to the top. Let's start with the quarterback, Jared Goff. It's our first time seeing this guy on this list. I may have, in my mind jinxed this. I didn't say it out loud, but I thought to myself, it's kind of weird we haven't seen our quarterback on here. Well, here he is. Jared Goff is now on here with his oblique injury. And I'm not a doctor, but after looking it up, quick little Google search, it's like the outside. I believe his is on the right side. It's sore, is what we were told. That injury took place on the hit that he took when he took the shot to Khalil Raymond early in the game. That was something that he was dealing with. Again, according to Dan Campbell, he was good enough to keep him going throughout the game and, utilize him. But he did say after the game that some of their game plan was because of the weather and some of it was because of his injury. The oblique injury I think it's pretty important. Right now, we don't really know if he's going to play or not this weekend. It's like Jared Goff said, right now you can't really tell. It's just kind of where does the week go and how does he feel on Friday, Saturday when we get closer to those days. I would anticipate him not practicing tomorrow either. He said the best thing for him right now is just rest. So I don't think he'll be out practicing tomorrow either. I would assume the next 2 days is going to be rest. And Friday's probably going to be a big day to see if that goes to limited. Saturday, we'll know pretty soon because it's the quarterback. Like, that news does not get hidden. We'll know about that. But that's definitely a big name to keep an eye on, of course, is Goff's injury. Because, look, the guy already doesn't have the biggest arm, but when you have an oblique injury, it can kind of limit you on some of the things that you can do, some of the torque that you can put into it. Your oblique is responsible for twisting of the trunk. That's what Google told me. So look at that, my medical side. If I had my Band-Aids with me, y'all know we do a medical skit. I just don't know where they're at. But I would. I definitely. No, they're not. Okay, if they were. I think I used them all, though. Forget it. We don't need the nurse in here. We good for now. But that's very important, though, to be able to twist because it puts a lot of power in the balls to snap it, like Dan Campbell said. So they're going to see how that goes throughout the week. Boyle and David Blau will be getting reps today, of course, because Jared Goff is not practicing. Jared Goff, it seems like the way that they've said it is that if he's good enough to go, he will play on Sunday. So it's just kind of wait and see. We saw Big Ben last week not practice the first 2 days, and on Friday it was full participation. He was good to go. Now, he didn't play because he hit the COVID list, but he would have played last week. It wasn't an injury that kept him out, but he didn't practice the first 2 days. Now, they also said this has no impact on the fact that they're playing the Bears on a short week next week. They're taking this week by week, day by day. So they're not looking forward for this. But Tim Boyle, like I said, he's still technically on IR. He would have to be activated off of IR to play on Sunday. But he is the guy taking the first team reps. Of course, David Blau is also mixing in there as well. I would say if Goff can't go, it's very likely that the next option for them would be Tim Boyle, assuming he's good. He's dealing with the right thumb injury. If Tim Boyle can't play, then it would be David Blau at that point. So we'll see how this week goes, but that's kind of the depth chart as we know it is Boyle's the 2, Blau's the 3, and of course Goff is the 1. So yeah, we'll see where that goes for this week. First 4 or 5 years he's been in the league is that he hasn't really missed a ton of games with injuries. He prides himself on the ability to play through injuries, and he said usually I recover pretty quickly, but this one we'll just kind of have to wait and see. And he said maybe I was a little bit more limited than I thought I was during the game, and I think you could see it on some of the throws. That's not an excuse. It's just that, look, Goff don't have the biggest arm. So if he's not healthy, the guy better not be on the field. Because if he literally can't make some throws, he's not helping us win at that point. And this sounds kind of weird because last week they had Goff in, and again, he was dealing with an injury. So like Campbell said, they did limit some things game plan-wise on what they were going to ask him to do after he took that hit. Maybe last week a lot of that was because they trusted him because he went through practice, for the week. He was the guy that was out there making the checks for the run, getting the game plan under his belt, understanding what was being asked of him. Now Boyle has an opportunity to practice this week. If Goff is not feeling that well, I would think they wouldn't hesitate to put Boyle out there. We can go, of course, and if he can't, David Blau will go. Biggest thing would be for them, they're just going to probably preach, don't turn the ball over. Don't beat us, basically, okay? Just don't lose us the game. When you meet with the media, like we always say, they usually play in the game, but who knows with this one. Trey Flowers, next up, outside linebacker, knee injury. The good news here is that he returned last game. He actually recovered the fumble that Will Harris knocked out at the end. He was in early, and then he went down with an injury, and then he came back into the game. Now, this was a knee injury that kind of was, I guess, re-aggravated against the Steelers when he went down and went out. But like I said, he returned to the game, which is good news there. This is unfortunate that he's back on this list because, again, he was taken off it last week, which was the mystery of the week. I don't know what the heck was going on there. All right, next up, Jamar Jefferson, the running back, knee, ankle. So he's got 2 things going on. A couple players on the Brown side's got 3 things going on, but the knee ankle injury did not participate today. I thought Jamar Jefferson got a really positive update today when Dan Campbell said he's good, limited a little bit, but he's good. But I think he was actually talking about Deandre Swift. So I'm not really sure we have an update on Jamar Jefferson aside from last week when they said it may not be as serious as we initially thought it was, but it doesn't mean that he'll necessarily play this week. So this week's kind of up in the air, I think, right now for Jamar Jefferson, and that's not a good start with no participation. Continuing down, Matt Nelson, the offensive tackle. He played 18 snaps last week, and then Will Holden came in once he went down with his injury. He did not participate today. If he can't play, expect to see Will Holden next week. I thought Matt Nelson fit really well in that 6th man, I'll call it, role. That brought a lot of good out of him. But again, if he can't go, Will Holden will probably be the next guy up. Maybe we'll see a little bit less of that schematically, possibly because of the weather, but also possibly because of the injury. The weather conditions don't look great now From what I've seen, it looks like about 46 to 50 degrees at the highest.
What's the best kind of firework to buy?
Wouldn't you like to know, weather boy?
With a little bit of rain, possibly could turn to heavier rain as the game goes on. A little bit of wind, nothing crazy, 14 miles per hour. So we'll see what that adjustment is like. Next up, Austin Bryant, the outside linebacker dealing with his shoulder injury. He wasn't active last week. That'll be a name to keep an eye on, especially with Trey Flowers there, to see if Trey Flowers is okay with his knee injury and whether or not Austin Bryant can go as well. But limited participation is usually a good sign, but like I said, he wasn't active last week. Deandre Swift. Now, this is the player I believe Dan Campbell was talking about. I believe he was talking about Swift. Maybe it was about Jamar, but I'm pretty sure it was about Swift. And he said he would be a little bit limited today. As you can see, he is limited today, but he's good. And he said he proved that he could get the ball 50 times. But no, he said, look, there's still some meat on the bone DeAndre Swift left out there. Even me and Rad talked about this on Last Second Dose. But like he brought up, we do forget sometimes how young he is. And he's right. I mean, the guy's only been in the league for 2 seasons now. Not even a full 2 seasons. And yeah, he didn't play a ton last year really until the year went second half of the season. So he's right. He is young, and you kind of do forget that because he gets so much attention. But he's dealing with his shoulder injury, limited participation, but it seems like everything's okay there. T-Walk, here's some good news because Tracy Walker with his concussion protocol, he was being evaluated for a concussion. He had limited participation today, and he said after last week's game against Steelers that he would be good to go for this upcoming game against the Browns, and it's starting to point that way. So awesome news there. Jamal Williams, here may be the best news of the week because I didn't know what we'd see with him. Well, he improved. Last week, he did not practice at all. This week, he's limited participation to start the week. The running back dealing with his thigh injury. He's missed the last 2 games plus the bye week, so it's been 3 weeks basically out for Jamal Williams, and he could be back this week, which would be very helpful if there's no Jamar Jefferson. Now, I thought Godwin played well. Don't get it twisted. But having Jamal with Swift and then having a guy like Godwin, like the more running backs, the better. And we know how good Jamal is. And there's a very big change of pace there. The energy that he brings is very contagious. So it'd be nice to have Jamal back on the field. That would be fantastic. Jerry Jacobs, the cornerback with a groin injury, full participation. Another kind of big surprise here. I don't know where he'd be at this week because he went out. Mark Gilbert came in last week. But starts the week with full participation. So it really can't get much better than that. If anything, it's good that Mark Gilbert got some experience. And even if Jerry can play this weekend, to have that competition now, right? Because now there's competition, but at the same time, just have some depth that you can rely upon that you can just throw him into the fire. It's like Campbell said, he wasn't go out there, he wasn't nervous, he wasn't scared, he made a mistake, maybe he got beat early, but man, he just kept playing aggressive. Like he was ready to go make a play. So that was awesome. At least he gave him experience last week, and I thought he stepped up to the plate. Dacker, according to Dan Campbell, is that his finger does look good. So all good there. I mean, the fact that he's on a list is good enough for me, but okay. Note on our receiver position, Josh Reynolds, because Dan Campbell was asked about him today, what he could bring to the table. And he says, I feel like Josh could help us in some of those one-on-one matchups, one-on-one opportunities. He's got that top end speed, which really he kind of works up to. He's a pretty fluid route runner. He tracks the ball pretty well. So we feel like just in on some of those one-on-one situations, he could help us. And I know he didn't say it, but blocking is a big one as well. And he gave us a subtle update at the kicker position, I think. He was asked about the new kickers he brought in. He said, I hate it for Santoso, but sometimes you just get that limited opportunity and you got to make the most of it. Well, last week he missed a couple of big kicks. But the way that he said it, the young guy, he didn't say his name specifically, but he's like, he's going to get a shot. I think Riley Patterson may have the leg up right now in this battle. I'm not saying that he will be the kicker, but it seems as if Riley Patterson, who is on the 53 because he was on the practice squad for the Patriots, the 22-year-old kicker out of Memphis, all right, who started off with the Vikings as an undrafted free agent, he may be the starting kicker this week. That's what it sounded like to me. I don't know for sure. They're both kind of young. Rosas is only 26, but it sounded like that. So we'll keep an eye on who wins that kicker battle. But it sounds like right now he may have the leg up and he may be the guy. The Lions are possibly looking to be the starting kicker this week. Let's move over to this Brown side because this Brown side is huge. It's just gigantic. I try to get as many updates as I could on all these guys, but there is just so much to this. Yeah. Off with Jadavian Clowney first, who has a new injury, I guess. As you can see, he's got 3 things going on: wrist, ankle, and knee. Last week it was just ankle and knee. This week they've also thrown in wrist to that mix. Now it's still limited participation, but he's a guy dealing with 3 things. He did play last week about 66% of snaps. He's got 3.5 sacks so far this season. It was kind of a big addition when they brought him in. Remember, they had to give up an interior defensive lineman. Can't think of the guy's name right now for some reason to get Jadavian Clowney because financial reasons. But he's a guy to keep an eye on. He was limited all last week though as well, and he did play in last week's game. So I would anticipate that he will play this week, but we'll keep an eye on it because we know that's I mean, when you think of the Browns, if there's one thing that sticks out, of course, the run game, but it's also that pass rush. They play a 4-3 defense, and that front four is nasty. They got a lot of big names on there. Like, you want to talk about star power, or maybe not even star power, just jersey sales. There's just household names all over that D-line. Now, it doesn't make them the best D-line just because you got big names, but they got a lot of big names. The next guy may win Defensive Player of the Year. That's Myles Garrett. All right, now he was out of practice today for a personal reason. This week he was sore, but he did play in last week's game. He had a sack against the Patriots. He said he rolled his foot. Today it's a personal reason, so I'm not sure what it is. Myles Garrett, even though it shows up as a personal thing, I don't know what it is, but he was brought up today, and he's expected to be back, according to Coach Kevin Stefanski. He's already got 13 sacks so far this season. 13 sacks? What the heck? Played 10 games, so, but 13 sacks, that's a lot. This dude might just hit 20 this season, which is crazy. Which is crazy. He might hit more than 20. In the little film that I watched, it's like Goff said, you got to know where they're at. Screens do seem to be somewhat effective for this team. Now, the issue with that, me saying that, is that if the Browns are game planning, which they are for us, he already knows our scheme, then they know screens are going to be huge. So screens may not be as easy to fool them. They have some smart defensive linemen like Malik Jackson in there, but I've seen you have some success with some of those running back slip screens. The issue is that that's what they're going to be prepared for in this game. Yeah, Myles Garrett, you got to know where that guy is, like all the time. AJ Green, young cornerback here. We talked about him back when he came out of the draft. I don't know if you guys remember that. Cornerback with a concussion, he did not participate today. I believe he's only in concussion protocol because they didn't clarify whether or not he actually has a concussion, but we'll see how that goes. He's just one of their depth guys. They got some good cornerbacks. They got Newsome, who they brought in this year. They, of course, have Denzel Ward. Greedy Williams, who we'll get to in a second. He's played well this season, I think, when he's been on the field. Troy Hill, who's also dealing with an injury. We'll get to him. So, anyway, continuing. Blake Hance. Now, he's listed as guard, but he's playing the right tackle position because Jack Conklin is down. I'm pretty sure the story is like Baker Mayfield introduced himself. I don't know if he said in the fourth quarter in the locker room. It was kind of weird how it came about, but he's starting at right tackle in place of Jack Conklin, who's expected to be out for a little bit longer. Now, their guards, they're good. All right, I'm pretty sure they both just got some extensions. They're good guards. But Blake Hance has struggled a little bit at that right tackle position with a thumb injury. He was brought in off a practice squad. He had limited participation today. That might be the weak spot on their offensive line if you look just by name. I know you can hit him with stunts, certain things like that, but just by name, that might be the weak spot on this offensive line one-on-one because he has had struggles. He's allowed 3 sacks this season. But at the same time, I mean, that's pretty cool to be able to slide to right tackle and step in and help out a little bit. But the rest of the O-line is pretty darn good, even though they gave up 5 sacks last week to the Patriots. Troy Hill. Now, here's the one. Now, this was scary. He actually went to the hospital. He was hospitalized with a neck sprain is what they labeled it as. He did not participate today, which does not surprise me at all. I wouldn't say he's been as dominant as maybe he was with the Rams in the past. Of course, there is that connection there with him. He's their starting slot corner that they brought in this offseason. But the thing with Troy Hill is that after a big collision, being hospitalized, and then he went back to Cleveland a couple of days ago and not having participation. I don't know how that's going to go throughout the week. I think that's something you definitely got to be careful and cautious with. The good news with Troy Hill is that according to Stefanski, they've gotten a lot of good news. I don't know exactly what that means, but that is good. And we'll just kind of keep an eye on how that depth goes because they got talent. It just, if they're missing a couple of these guys, the cornerback depth then comes kind of into question of who's going to be, guys that step in if you get to that fourth receiver. But at the same time, if they're playing us and we're playing a lot of 3 tight ends, 1 receiver, then you don't really need a ton of cornerbacks either. So I guess that's part of it, but we'll keep an eye on Troy Hill. Hopefully he's okay. Malik Jackson, interior defensive lineman here with a knee injury, did not participate today. All right, now this was a former Jacksonville Jaguar, that connection with Todd Walsh. A pressure so far this season. Again, maybe he hasn't been super dominant. He's one of those interior defensive linemen on this 4-man defensive front. Maybe he hasn't been as dominant as he was in the past, but like I said, I think Malik's a very smart player. You can see the read and react, especially on screens. It's just a lot of big names that they have here on this defensive line. Jarvis Landry, their top receiver, they put this thing on Twitter saying he doesn't know why he's getting the ball more, but at the same time there was some she left out certain things that he actually said, like they left out certain parts of some of the questions that he was asked, saying that Baker, he's a tough man, because Baker's been going through it so far this season in terms of injury. He has been hit with the injuries, but he's playing through it, so respect to him. Jarvis Landry has also been dealing with some stuff. He said he's been sore. You can see here the knee injury. Reportedly, Jarvis Landry has been battling, and like he said, anytime he's on the field, he's going to give it everything he has. The receiver position is another spot to kind of keep an eye out for, possibly missing some names here. We're going to get to Peoples-Jones a little bit. Anthony Schwartz, another name on this list. So they did bring up Rashard Higgins, who we talked about this offseason in free agency as someone that could get more reps this week. They do like to spread it out kind of like we do. They do give me some resemblance of what we do offensively. They'll go heavy run set, then they'll spread you out, they'll go empty sets as well. And so Dell is gone now, and then you have some injuries that you're dealing with here. They could look to bring some other guys up. The receiver positions is a big one in terms of depth that you should keep an eye on for the rest of this week. Mayfield, like I said, he's been going through it. Left shoulder, foot, knee. Left shoulder has been the one that I think we've heard about a lot that he's dealing with that's kind of hindered him a little bit. Is sore.
Baker made it sound like he would be playing on Sunday, but we'll see how it goes. I know he's pretty beat up, and apparently he was limping. Now, they did win a game this season with their backup, Case Keenum, the former Viking. They have a pretty good team around him with the run game and things like that, so we'll just see how the week goes.
Last week, he had a big interception against the Patriots, which kind of hurt early in the game. They put him at like the 5-yard line, and then they punched it in. Takk McKinley, defensive end here. This is, I guess not a huge name, maybe not a household name, but like, okay, they got names, man. Takk McKinley, he has 7 pressures so far this season, dealing with a groin injury. He's missed time recently, like he didn't play last week. I know he was very limited the week before that. So dealing with a groin injury there, limited participation today, which is probably good news, me saying that. Donovan Peoples-Jones, the Michigan man. Okay, we see you, DPJ. DPJ, that don't sound good. Anyway, wide receiver, dealing with a groin injury, limited participation today. So this is why I'm like, hey, keep an eye on that receiver position because they're missing some guys. Or not even missing, they're just dealing with injuries there. But Peoples-Jones limited, that's usually a good sign. Anthony Schwartz, concussion, not participate today. According to Stefanski, this could be something that you see today and tomorrow, and then it's really about Friday just because of the normal concussion protocol, how long it takes to be back. So they're not really sure. It's just kind of up in the air right now with Anthony Schwartz, the rookie out of Auburn, the speedster out of Auburn, who's had like 8 receptions for just over 100 yards so far this season. J.C. Tretter. All right, this is an interior offensive lineman. Makes up a really good group here. Knee injury, limited participation. And you cap this off with Greedy Williams, the LSU cornerback, 2nd-round pick, dealing with a shoulder injury. Full participation, however, today. I know he went injured. When Denzel Ward went down, he got some oxygen against the Bengals, and he ended up getting injured during that time after his huge pick 6, like in the end zone. Good news there for Greedy. It looks like he'll be back in. Honestly, he's played pretty well this year, like especially just statistically when you look at coverage numbers. He's been really solid in coverage, like 23 completions on 40 targets, depends what stats website you look at. He's allowed a sub 83 pass rating. He has a pick this season, 2 touchdowns allowed. So statistically speaking, he's been good in coverage. And that's, I guess, not a huge surprise because that's what he was coming out of the draft. He was a good coverage player. So not a big surprise there with him. But there's a couple of names that aren't on this list that we still need to bring up because they're dealing with things. And they're big names, like Nick Chubb, like Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt has been ruled out for Sunday's game, according to Stefanski. He said not this week. He will not play this week against the Lions. With Nick Chubb, he was placed on the COVID list after testing positive, but he is vaccinated. So right now, they don't really have an update on him. They're just following protocol. Same thing with the other running back, Demetric Felton. I believe that's also kind of the same situation as he also tested positive. So they're just following protocol to see if they'll be back. But I would say that's probably promising. If you're vaccinated and you're following protocol, there's probably a good chance that he could be back this weekend. So I think you may see Nick Chubb play this weekend against us, which is huge because Chubb is really good. Now, hey, Ernest Johnson stepped in last week and he was good as well. The guy averaged like over 5 yards a pop. He's averaging like 5.3 yards a carry, but he ran well last week. 19 carries, 99 yards. It's just that they fell in such a hole that it was like, yeah, we can't run the ball anymore. Okay, we know that as Lions fans how that feels. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, they got a lot of things going on here, and I think a lot of this will be cleaned up by Friday, and we'll have a better idea of what's going on. But there's just a lot right now to start this week. Dan Campbell said his sole focus was on Sunday's game against Cleveland. He's not looking ahead whatsoever to the Bears. Focus is on beating the Cleveland Browns this week, not looking ahead whatsoever to a short week against the Bears. And I don't think you can look ahead. All right, I feel like the weeks that it seemed like we've had these real competitive games, we've had really tough, has been intense weeks of practice, right? They just get after, and I don't see the practice, but that's what we hear is that they got the pads on. They have an intense practice. Have good weeks like that, and then come back and get blown out. I feel like you have to keep the intensity up and try to find a way to build some momentum continuing into that short week against the Chicago Bears. If you go out and back off the gas a little bit and get blown out, then you're not going to have any kind of momentum going into that Thanksgiving game, and that could just get ugly. So for sure, the focus has to be simply on this week. How do we beat the Browns? And then the short week, it is what it is. We'll get there when we get there. We're focused on it when we get there, and then we'll have basically a week and a half to rest. Like we have an extra Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday where you guys can just rest up. Usually on Wednesday, guys that are sore, you see more guys sitting out. Usually you see that on Wednesday. So just keep that in mind with some of the injuries that we're dealing with. But I don't think you can be looking ahead and trying to schedule things differently for next Thursday's game. Probably a long video. I'm going to end it here, not make you stay any longer because this has been a while. And I'm going to get prepared for tonight's live stream. That is the Wednesday injury report for the Lions and for the Browns. Hey, you want to talk about playing with injuries, playing through it, figure it out? The Browns are doing that. The video thoughts, God's blow. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.